Good evening. I'd like to call to order the public action meeting for August 19th. If we could please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. The board met in an executive session to discuss personnel issues just prior to this meeting. In addition, the board met on July 22nd to discuss a personnel issue. And on July 29th, the board held a retreat to discuss goals for the 2021-22 school year. Chris, can we get a roll call, please?
Mr. Goldberg. Mr. Kaman.
Here.
Mr. Pilata. Mrs. Polsky.
Here.
Mr. Sanderson.
Here.
Mr. Taylor.
Here.
Mrs. Toy Dragoni.
Here.
Mrs. Walkspress.
Here.
Mr. Waldorf.
Present.
Mr. Gaba. Mr. Kubler. 9 members present.
Thank you. I would like to take a minute to address the issues related to recent board meetings and the equity work of Pennsbury School District. There is a national politically driven campaign to misrepresent critical race theory and then conflate critical race theory with any work related to equity. Throughout these last several months, there have been a vocal minority seeking to bring this misrepresentation and conflation to Pennsbury School District. Pennsbury has tried and continues to try to educate our community about what equity is and is not. In this process of trying to educate and protect our community from words of hate, there have been some missteps on the part of the board. I acknowledge my accountability in that as the president of the school board. To be clear, however, we have made no attempt to stop anyone from criticizing us, going so far as allowing a community member to refer to me as Mussolini, with no attempt to censor the individual. This is, however, a limited public forum, so personal attacks on our staff and our students cannot be okay. There has been nothing good to come from this group seeking national attention related to this issue, and it has resulted in threats of violence against me and my family. I've been called every name in the book and have been suggested to get murdered and have my daughter and sisters get raped. I could go on, but I will not give this basement level vitriol any more airtime. I'm happy to show anyone the emails I have received. The only thing this has done of any value is solidified the need for our equity focus and confirmed our commitment to it. We will not be bullied away from standing up for our most vulnerable of community members. Thank you. Dr. Smith?
Thank you very much. I'd like to take a moment just to thank you to the board for this opportunity. This is my first official meeting in Pennsbury. I'm proud to be here, and I'm proud to work together with anyone and everyone to move this district forward. We have one strong vision. We met with the administrators earlier this week that our goal is for Pennsbury to regain its prominence and be the top district in the county, if not the state. So we will be focusing all our energies on that work and are committed to working with the board, with our administration, and with any member of the public to help us achieve that goal. I'm going to give a little return to school update prior to the bigger return to school update and allow the tech department to bring the screen up. But I would like to say in my first few weeks, I've visited every school in our district. They look great. They're working hard to make sure that they are ready for our students and staff. I'd like to give a special shout out to Tim Holman, our Director of Facilities, and his crew for making sure everything's ready and we're in a good place. For our transportation department and our technology department for making sure our schedules are ready Our bus pickup information is all set. So again, our principals have been working hard to make sure that we are ready to bring students back on August 30th. Our staff returns next week, so we're pretty excited. We're bringing them 2 days of professional development that will be ready for our students to return. So without further ado, I'm going to turn to our return to school update. And let me just preface this by saying we recognize at this point there's no perfect plan, and things have changed. Things have changed as late as Tuesday afternoon when we got updated information from our County Department of Health. And given the current situation, this plan represents, we feel, our best chance for returning to in-person education full day in the start of the school year, which is August 30th. So we're trying to begin all of our presentations by recognizing why we're here and the goals of our students, our mission statement. So our school year plans, we're planning for a traditional school year to begin August 30th with full day, 5 days a week in-person instruction. We know that there may be a possibility for short-term closures if necessary. We don't want that to happen, but we know that that might happen. We recognize that this situation is volatile, so we've made alternate plans, and we also are recognizing that any plan we have in place will need to be reviewed and changed depending on what happens with the cases in the area. So as a district, we've made a pledge to support the mental and physical health of our students. I think it's important to recognize that some of our students, in the case of the high school, over 30% of our students have not been in school physically in school for over 18 months. We're going to work hard to identify and support the gaps in student learning. We're going to continue, again, another shout out to Mr. Holman and his group, establishing our cleaning and screening protocols in our facilities. We're going to follow the district and the distancing and PPE guidelines as much as we possibly can as a district from our state and local health officials. And our goal is to provide timely and accurate information as this plan will inevitably change. So we're going to continue with our health screenings, social distancing where feasible, our ventilation and air purification systems. We're going to control movement throughout the highways, the seating charts on buses, the use of outdoor spaces as much as possible for our students, hand washing and respiratory etiquette for our students. That's really a fancy term for teaching kids to cough into their elbows, encouraging and promoting the vaccine, and encouraging testing and reports to our school nurses. So what has changed since we last communicated information? On Tuesday afternoon at 3 p.m., the Bucks County Department of Health revised its the county school guidance to include a recommendation of masking all students. Also, on August 17th, Bucks County moved into the high transmission category. Local hospitals have stated that they are growing concern that any pediatric COVID-19 cases could stress the system. So this is the matrix that we've been developed and that we're working for. As cases increase into the substantial and high area, that mandatory masks, students will need to wear masks on kindergarten or pre-K through 12th grade when the cases are substantial. So again, just reiterating that this plan, as you see, is going to be flexible and reevaluated every month to determine the cases, and changes can and will be made. Masking exceptions, will provide those again as per the state and federal laws. So using a layered prevention strategy, we're in the high level of transmission. At this point, masking, going by the guidance from our County Department of Health, is mandatory for our students and staff regardless of vaccination status from pre-K through 12th grade. We will be providing regular mask breaks to those students. Outdoors, masks are optional. As you know, we have no goals to change up our schedule at all. Lunch is a big area of conversation. Options will include the cafeteria, outdoor space, and classroom spaces. Sanitizing will be daily cleaning of our high-touch services. As I mentioned, the screening for students and staff. Transportation, all riders are required to wear a mask. This is the CDC mandates. And something that the district felt quite strongly about is we really want to keep our buildings open for those outside organizations. We're not shutting anything down for those groups as long as they can come in and use our spaces. Other areas of conversation is the contact tracing. Again, this remains a little volatile in terms of guidance that we're receiving, but as a district, we will be contact tracing. Our nurses will do this, and our administrators at each school will identify and let folks know if they've been in close contact with a case. Our cases will be reported to Bucks County Department of Health. Any student or staff member that is considered a close contact will be notified. Students and teachers and staff, we're asking they should stay home if they have signs of an infectious illness. And depending on the illness, the type of quarantine will be determined through consultation with our district and local health officials. Sports and activities, we're continuing moving forward with those. With that, masks for outdoor activities, masks are not required. For indoor activities, they're mandatory for spectators and individuals on the sidelines, but not the players in the games. Obviously, water. The students will continue to screen the athletes will continue to screen as they come in, and cleaning and disinfection of all our sports equipment, and asking our students, our players, our athletes, to report cases directly to their coaches. Again, notification, we're going to continue to provide notification of close contacts, school-based notifications. Parents will be informed if there's a case in their school, similar to the letters that were sent last year. We will post our weekly cases up on our dashboard as it was in the past, and we will update it with each class. School closures, again, we are not anticipating any full closure of any school, and we're working hard to avoid that. We will look at cases, particularly on the elementary level, of the number of cases in a grade or on in a particular class, and will be determined if we need to make an adjustment there. But as of right now, we have no interest in closing our schools. This is the guidance that we use to develop and guide our committee. These are the recommendations of the committee and the updated health and safety plan that the board will review later this evening. Happy to answer any questions from the board at this point.
We're very excited about the start of the new school year, and welcome.
Okay, reports. The tech school. Gary?
Our meeting is coming up August 27th, so I have nothing to report at this time.
Okay. IU, Josh?
Thank you, Christine. The Bucks County Intermediate Unit did meet on the 17th. We generally at those meetings we pass the budget and personnel things. The biggest item was the health and safety plan, and Bucks County Intermediate Unit voted for universal indoor masking for all individuals that do not have a medical exemption. That's my report.
Okay, education, Deb?
Thanks, Christine. The Board Education Committee met on August 10th. District goals. Dr. Smith shared district educational goals at the meeting, including goals surrounding equity and the physical and mental health support of all students and staff. Draft school reopening plans were discussed. Dr. Smith shared reopening plans, which include 5-day of in-person instruction, full-time for all students. School reopening plans include the return to sports and extracurricular activities. Health and safety measures were also discussed and shared with the group, with the understanding that the COVID pandemic continues to change on a near daily basis, and the district will need to pivot in order to meet the needs of mandates and recommendations. The 2021-22 assessment calendar was discussed with Mary Margaret Panic, our district assessment coordinator. She presented the assessment calendar for the coming year, which highlighted the idea of allowing teachers and students time to transition back to the more typical classroom settings before beginning any major assessments. The timeline for the first set of assessments will begin in late September. We discussed plans for remote learning. Dr. Ricci reported that any student interested in remote learning will have the option, K-12, through the Cyber Academy at Pennsbury. Parents are encouraged to visit the district website under Schools to learn more about the program and complete an interest form if they would like to speak to a counselor about getting started. We had a number of action items. One was the ARP ESSER grant funds, the federal funds. Mary Margaret Panic, District Assessment Coordinator, provided a presentation regarding the proposed use of ESSER funds, including roughly $1 million in support of COVID-related learning loss. The balance of the funds will be used to offset other costs associated with the reduction of revenue associated with the COVID pandemic. There's a board motion on this this evening. High school orientation was discussed. Dr. Ricci provided information about a proposal to extend high school orientation to all grades, thereby making August 30th a day for grades kindergarten through 5th, 6th grade, 9th grade, and 10th grade. A board motion is included tonight which will allow the high school administration to execute the orientation program for 9th and 10th graders on August 30th and 11th and 12th graders on August 31st. The following topics include motions this evening. Acadience Reading and Math Assessments, reading program at the elementary level. SAP contract, which is a student assistance program at all 3 divisions. Renewal of Q Global, Q Interactive annual digital membership, a special education testing product. Penn Medicine Health, occupational therapy support. CPR training for paraprofessionals. 2021-2022 out-of-district placements, the approval of fees for any possible out-of-district special education placements. Renewal of ELA collections contract, middle school language arts renewal. Navigate 360 threat assessment platform, ALICE and safety training and materials. EduLink software program, professional and administrative evaluation program, Promethean display panels, projection panels to be placed utilizing, I guess, Title I funds? Yeah, Title I funds. And lastly, revised cheerleading camp. Some discussion items. Transportation information for the 2021-22 school year. Tim McCleary, our Director of IT, provided information to parents about the new bus routing system, which includes an app for parents to provide up-to-date bus stop information, as well as the opportunity for two-way messaging with the Transportation Department. Planning for future meetings. It was determined that the Board Education Committee will hold future meetings on the 4th Thursday of each month at 5:30 p.m. when possible. The next meeting will be held on September 30th, which is the 5th Thursday, since there is an action board meeting on the 4th Thursday of September. That concludes my report.
Thanks, Deb. Facilities, TR?
Thanks, Christine. The Facilities Committee met on August 5th. At a pretty short meeting, we had Bonnet come in and talk about the administration elevator project just outside here. We found out that they ran into a hiccup with the elevator. We found out that we need a machine room that was not envisioned in the past. So that's going to cause a little bit delay on the project itself. We also talked about the Oxford Valley mold remediation project, and the good news is we got an all clear. Everything is clean there. We also talked about all the summer project, which is mainly all the roofs on several school buildings, and all of them are on track. It should be done before school starts. We had a few action items. We are adding some vendors to the facilities vendors list. We talked about, we found out that we have 160 pallets of old books that we can't donate at this point, and we are actually going to recycle them. So we talked about that. One of the students from the tech school, Lucas Wolf, as part of the Eagle Scout project, wants to build a Gaga pit at the Eleanor Roosevelt School, so we are excited for him to do that. And we are also purchasing 3 maintenance vehicles. That's all for my report.
Thanks, TR. Finance, Josh?
Thank you, Christine. The Finance Committee met on August 3rd. The informational items to share with everybody is Verizon expressed interest in putting up a cell tower close to the middle school complex, so we asked them to understand what they're proposing, as well as any safety issues related to the children being so close to the tower. I'd like to point out that we received several donations. They'll be under the new business 8A and B, and I'd like to, and I hope we'll pull those out to thank them at that time. We did have a report on the Sunshine Act that was passed by the last legislature session in Harrisburg, which is that all of our agenda items need to be approved or posted prior to the meeting, and the agenda needs to be posted on the front door when people come in, and then anything that we're adding, we have to vote on those items. So I want you to be aware of that. Those are supposed to start in September, but we're practiced that tonight. We did learn that the state extended the PlanCon opportunity for all buildings that start construction by December 31st, 2022, and the Charles Bain project would be eligible for that. Of course, as all of you know, the state has never funded that recently, so, but at least we're in that. We also received notification that we are now again a third-party commercial driver's license site through July 2026, which allows us to train not only our bus drivers, but to be a resource for the community and neighboring school districts. Our next meeting is going to be on September 9th from 6 to 7:30, but I do want to call your attention to a number of items, action items, and I'll just appreciate your patience as I walk through them. So, we're going to, W, under new business, is disposal of vehicles as part of our agreement, and we purchased our grant for propane buses. We had to literally destroy five existing buses that were diesel. So those, that is, tonight we're asking to do that. We also received a very generous donation from the Hayes Trust Scholarship for over $500,000 to go to help our students with higher education opportunities. And so we really want to thank the Hayes Trust, and you'll approve that tonight. Y is the PSBA maintenance program renewal for us to keep our costs down. We also, back earlier this year, or within the past year, we asked for a telecommunications audit, and that was closed out, and wanted to point out for Z that the Spyglass helped us identify savings of over $93,000 in our telecommunications. So you're going to be approving that. They had a contingency if they found some savings, so we're approving that. AA, BB, CC are all related to the new warehouse that we got with the pilot program that we approved. And the most important one is getting fiber to the warehouse, and you're approving that as a CC. That will allow us to run our servers and the broadband, and so that's important to get done. DD is the Remind Communication Service renewal. This is our way for our faculty and staff to connect with individual classes, sports teams, and we would encourage, we'd like to encourage you to approve that tonight, as well as encourage the community to make sure they sign up for Remind. The EE has to do again with our broadband access through the Bucks County Intermediate Unit, has a consortium for us, and we're renewing that as EE tonight. And then we have a series of, FF is what Deb referred to as a pilot program for geo alerts that will hopefully we're going to start and be able to implement before this overall school year is over. But the idea is that we're picking a few routes where we'll be able to allow parents to be able to track and see where their bus is and get announcements. So that I think that'll be something that the entire community, especially parents, will appreciate. And then GG, HH, and II and JJ are all related to the software for the upcoming school year renewals. So we'd encourage you to improve all of that. And then again, as I said, 8A and B are thanking our donors from the ShopRite of Ben Salem and Fairless Hills for donating PPE hand sanitizer, as well as Lowe's providing us with a donation of PPE as well. I'd like to thank them. So that is my report.
So Josh, you mentioned all of the donations then, so because,
I have mentioned all the donations.
okay, good, okay. Policy, Gary?
Thank you, Ms. President. We will be meeting in October, so I have no report this evening.
Mike, Wellness?
The Wellness Committee hasn't met, so we have nothing to report this time.
Okay, thanks. Okay, so moving on to our first public comment. Jane Moore?
So public comment is starting at 8:04.
Thanks, Chip.
I was preoccupied, I apologize. Okay, my name is Jane Moore, I'm a 65 Ball Cypress Lane, Levittown, PA. I'm a resident of Falls Township, and I wanted to talk a little bit about the health issues. My son, I don't really want him to be masked. I don't believe personally that it should be mandated. I really believe that there are different situations for every individual, and they should all be treated individually, not like a giant across-the-board situation. I don't want to sit, but I will do that. So actually, I also wanted to segue into saying that Dr. Smith, on behalf of the taxpayers and the parents of the Pennsbury School District, we welcome you here. Through your personal work history, it appears you're a leader, always focused on enhancing the communities in which you have served. We look forward to working with you to improve our district and community, and we're very excited and hopeful to see our students' academic development be put back on track. We believe that in recent years, our district's reputation has been blemished by poor leadership and poor legal guidance and interference by the solicitors of Robert Clark, currently employed by the district. Further, we strongly oppose, we just want you to know that we strongly oppose the diversity, equity, and inclusion program policy recently approved by the school board. We don't agree that the program is written and formed will better serve our student body. Rather, it will cause division with our children. This is evident by the opposition that has risen amongst the parents before the policy had even been interjected into the curriculum. This district-wide decline began in 2017, and we've learned through depositions that were released into the current EEOC complaints that several lawsuits have been filed against the district. Your predecessor, Dr. Gratzula, lacking leadership skills, made multiple egregious errors in management of the administrative staff, creating a hostile workplace environment. 3 school board members who left the board before their term ended approached Rudolph Clark regarding the burgeoning discontent among the members of Dr. Gratzula's staff. Mr. Clark referred a close friend and colleague, Joe O'Brien, to provide leadership training for Dr. Gratzula, and rather than overcoming the issues, it caused further discontent, eventually leading to EEOC complaints and 3 federal lawsuits. In September 2018, Dr. Gratzula gave his resignation at a board meeting, which was followed by prepared statements by 4 board members who currently sit on the Board of Education. These members, while fully aware of the human resource problems taking place, decided to push for a contract extension for Dr. Gratzula. On October 2018, depositions detailed allegations that these 4 board members staged attacks through misinformation delivered to our community. Their attacks were aimed at administrators who filed complaints with the Human Resources Department, as well as at school board members who held the majority vote opposing a contract extension for Dr. Gratzula. We encourage you to view the September and October 2018 board meetings for a better understanding of the nature of the board members and their disturbing misconduct at these meetings. It is through them that the hostile workplace environment was created and had been allowed to continue until this day. As detailed in the above-mentioned depositions, a high-ranking Lower Makefield Democratic Party politician interjected himself into the situation by calling a dissented board member to encourage them to extend the contract. At the very next meeting, votes were cast, and the contract extension was passed. Understandably, the events infuriated district employees who were already discontented with the leadership. Dr. Smith, we strongly recommend that you prohibit this kind of political game playing in the future for the good of our community and for the good of our students. Retaliation against administrators who voiced their concerns regarding misconduct by the former superintendent was swift. one board member allegedly stated that anyone who was engaged in causing trouble with a contract extension was going to be dealing with serious consequences for their decision to express their concerns. He continued by saying paybacks would be swift and vicious. RDKs have been submitted for the depositions given by this board member to confirm these allegations. That request was recently denied, but if it has been proven true that this board member did admit under oath to the misconduct, we are asking that this member be barred from barred from contacting any administrator or Pennsbury staff members without your express approval. We insist that any district employees or elected official of our district conduct themselves with the highest ethics and respect for colleagues and employees of our district. Given that this person did not have the decency to resign from the board, we are relying on you to prevent this individual from entering the workplace during the school day without supervision, and that the engagement with the staff is limited to conversations in your presence. There is a line of professional decorum that school board members should not cross, and this board crosses it constantly, as shown in the RTKs that have been answered. Thank you very much for your time.
Michelle James.
Reset the timer. She didn't even sit down yet. She didn't even say a word. Reset it.
Okay, it's not me that's doing it. Chip has the timer, so you'll get 5 minutes.
Last warning, Chip. I can help you. Please help me, Chip.
I'll just use the phone for the timer.
We can see it. Make sure that alarm's loud. Yeah.
Yeah, try to fix it for me, thanks. Okay, you can go ahead.
Dr. Smith, welcome. My name's Michelle James. I'm a Lower Makefield.
I don't know if the microphone's on.
Michelle James, Lower Makefield Township. Welcome, Dr. Smith. One smile can start a friendship. These are the words I used to say to my children as they would get on the bus in the morning when they would go to school. How many friendships aren't going to be made because these children are masked? This option should be left up to the parent. Now I'm going to segue to another part. In February of 2020, we were able to read the background claims of the lawsuits filed against the district and Dr. Grzula. From what we understand, the lawsuits filed are simply unacceptable on every level. We are certain that after you read the documents, you will agree with our conclusions. It appears that the actions that occurred were the result of the adults in charge placing their priorities and their political ambitions before the best interest of our children and students. If these tactics and words were used by Dr. Grzula, by anyone sitting in this audience today towards employees, we would have lost our jobs immediately. Instead, our school board went into self-preservation mode with the support of our solicitor to defend the actions, despite the overwhelming evidence of misconduct. Depositions for the Mort case began in July of 2020. We learned through legal documents that these depositions occurred over a 4-day period during the final 2 weeks of July. At that time, the board and the superintendent were to be planning the reopening of our schools. The board once again failed our children and our community by delaying the reopening. They misrepresented and cherry-picked data from parent and staff surveys to suggest that neither group showed a strong favor for virtual or in-person learning. Our district was one of the last to reopen. RTKs revealed that the initial survey showed that 63% of the teachers and 65% of the parents expressed the desire to reopen the school with in-person learning. Upon a retaking of the survey, the percentages increased to reflect that 70% or more of both groups preferred in-person learning as opposed to virtual learning. Once the public was made aware of these findings, they could no longer keep the schools on lockdown. We believe at that time the board and Dr. Krasula were embroiled in litigation proceedings. Therefore, they dismissed the plan to reopen our schools. We have submitted RTKs for details surrounding the July 30th fiasco, but our solicitors have blocked access to these documents that would confirm or disprove our beliefs. We know that a huge number of text exchanges occurred among these board members at this time, but Rudolph Clark has blocked our access to them. We ask that you personally review the text message exchanges that occurred among the board members on and around July 30th, and utilize your authority to overrule the solicitors and turn over these texting exchanges. This transparency will serve to heal the community and confirm the trust we should have in your leadership as you take the helm. To add insult to injury, the language that was used by this board towards parents in the October 2020 Education Committee was very concerning. One member here went so far to say that parents need to lower their expectations, that this school year was going to be just a do-over for our children and that we should get used to it. I lost my spot. The same board member then diminished the mental health of our kids who were sad, and this board shouldn't, they diminished the mental health of our children, stating that they didn't care that our kids were sad, and that this board shouldn't vote to reopen schools if it put even one person at risk of dying. She continued by stating that she didn't care what people thought of her stance since she wasn't running for re-election, and feared no reprisals. This member of the board is one whose conduct led to legal actions taken against the district in the past. Dr. Smith, you can relive this horror experienced by those of us in attendance by reviewing the October Education Committee meeting. Fast forwarding to late October of 2020, an RTK requesting information related to an October 13th email written by Dr. Krasula to the board members was submitting. The response confirmed that this email does exist. However, the contents, which would have proven to be personally embarrassing because it shines a light on what their priorities have been since these lawsuits were filed, were not made public. Despite that, many of us are familiar with the contents of the email. Again, this is proof of the lack of transparency used to cover up personal misconduct, which places political ambitions and self-preservation over the needs of our kids. We ask that you personally review the email exchange that occurred on October 13th among these board members, and that you utilize your authority to overrule the solicitors and turn over these emails. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Laura Hawley. Laura Hawley.
Take off your mask, we can't understand you. Brian.
There is somebody else who's third. There is somebody else who's third on the list?
It's, oh, I'm sorry, I skipped it. I'm sorry, Brian McNamara.
I just don't want to go out of order.
Sorry about that.
Ryan McNamara, Lower Makefield Township, here to talk about the mask. Just listening to Josh struggle through his presentation tonight, I think kind of shows how damaging masks are to kids. Josh was having such a hard time getting through what he had to say. And now I'd like to segue as well. In November of 2020, one of the sitting board members resigned. Following his resignation, the school board president openly stated on Facebook, no registered Republican would be considered for that seat. When she was asked to stop politicizing the education board, she childishly argued with people on Facebook. Right to Know requests proved that the process to replace the board seat was a sham. One member of the board compared the process to speed dating and indicated that only pre-selected questions would be asked and answered. 3 members of the board chose not to participate in the process, with one of those members, stating that the other members should tell him who they wanted to fill a seat, and that he would cast his vote with the majority. The level of concern that these members have for our children is disgraceful. As you can guess, their pre-selected candidate was the newly minted board member. The new member closed the meeting with expressing how excited he or she was to vote for a massive tax break for big business. It certainly makes it clear that their only interest is political. With the new year, January 2021, came the hope that the school board would have a different approach to the concerns and wishes of the taxpayer and residents of Pennsbury District. The board was very aware that the community did not support the tax breaks for North Point development. But how could you say no to its passage when State Senator Steve Sanacero brought it to the table? Isn't tax revenue generated for our schools a major issue of the concern of any school director? We didn't factor into the equation that State Senator Steve Sanacero is an employee of Rudolph Clark. Isn't there a conflict of interest? 6,000 minimum wage jobs will be created while giving up $1.1 million in current annual tax revenue. That would have more than doubled but the reassessment of the property when sold. How does this benefit the school district? Not one person on this board has offered up an explanation of how minimum wage jobs benefited the community that you can't functionally live in on a minimum wage pay. To this day, no one has been given an answer, or has given the community an answer. The district, the school board, and the solicitor decided that they are going to start invoking Board Policy 903 to silence people. During the January 2021 meeting and February 2021 meeting, the board overtly refused to read comments that were submitted, and then they attempted to erase them from the record. RTKs were submitted to get the actual submissions. They were posted for the community to see and read for themselves. The deposition of a former board member, Jacqueline Redner, became public. The rumors have been swirling of all the misconduct behind the scenes was now in writing. 206 pages showed how the school was being run, how the misbehavior of these incompetent school board members that sit beside you tonight led us into the gutter, resulting in an EEOC lawsuit. Finally, confirmation under oath that these board members did what was alleged in the community commentary was so heinous, the district quickly moved to settle. We've yet to see the redactions removed that were ordered by the judge, but we're told they're in responses related to our solicitor, Michael Clark. Please release all the depositions and the unredacted parts. This brings us to March 2021 board meeting. This meeting was critical, with hundreds watching online to find out whether we would move from hybrid to 4-day in-person school session. On the agenda that night was the first reading of the equity policy. Of the people that came to address the equity policy, we listened to Mr. Doug Marshall and what he had discussed. He was respectful. He put forward a dissenting opinion. That's when everything broke loose. The board did the unthinkable. They removed 48 seconds of Doug Marshall's comments from the tape. And then they released a letter to the community apologizing for not silencing Mr. Marshall's microaggression and dog whistling racist comments. The board has slumped to the lowest point in district history by disrespecting Mr. Marshall and falsely labeling him and his comments and limiting his right to free speech. Thank you.
Laura Hawley.
Thank you. Laura Hawley, 50 Laura Lane. I just want to say that I do think that masks should be optional from the parent, should be able to choose. And Dr. Smith, welcome. I also want to be able to continue from the previous speakers in the chain of thought. By this time, the April board meeting was upon us, and at this meeting, the audience witnessed firsthand the viciousness of one of our school board members. She staged a pre-planned attack, as she had in the past, attempting to intimidate and bully Doug Marshall. We question whether her words were spoken to build a defense strategy for the 2 remaining EEOC lawsuits. In the lawsuits, this board member was accused of making heinous racist remarks. A school school board member should never be permitted to speak to a community member in this fashion. If they want to invoke Board Policy 903, it goes both ways. Moreover, the uncivil behavior displayed that evening was intolerable. It is an embarrassing display of unprofessional conduct. The community feels as though the board members have no respect for this community and that the members are simply trying to salvage their personal reputation by posing as diversity champions, while at the same time, one member is being sued for using the N-word in an executive session. Our once highly respected school district has been operating much like a soap opera and is now the laughingstock of our community because of the conduct of this board. During the May school board meeting, the board sank to an all-time new low, if you can imagine going any lower than what we've already described. This meeting will forever be remembered for the infamous line shouted by Solicitor Peter Amuso, "You're done!" You've probably seen this on social media, as it has received millions of views by people across the nation. Our school board allowed a vendor, let me restate that word again, a vendor, to verbally abuse our community members, over which the solicitor had no authority. Mr. Amuso attacked community members for comments regarding their discontent with the actions and policies desired by this board. His silence, they were deemed irrelevant simply because they didn't fit with the narrative by this board. His silencing of speakers that evening was clearly a violation of the First Amendment. In addition, Board Policy 903, which is illegal, was used to justify his actions. To prevent the public from viewing this fiasco, the district shut down the live stream while people were watching at home to prevent the public from downloading the video and seeing the evidence of this misconduct, so hiding it from the public. While that was happening, community member Tim Daly was awaiting an RTK response regarding email communications that led to the March 30th statement from Toy Dragoni. The document revealed that Dr. Gibson, with personal support of Deb Watchpress, encouraged shutting down any voice of dissent regarding the revised equity policy. In these emails, Dr. Gibson brands Doug Marshall as a racist, requested that his comments be stricken from the record, and strongly suggested that the board and solicitor be more aggressive in silencing any dissenting views about her equity policy in the future. Mr. Gonies responds by stating the board was in agreement with her and that in the future she promises that she will be more assertive in hitting the mute button. Mr. Daly and Mr. Abrams had concerns regarding that Dr. Gibson's recommendations were contradictory to the data presented within the Family Engagement Survey. The June 2021 school board meeting put Pennsbury again in the national spotlight for its 5-month censorship war against the community. 20 million people have viewed Simon Campbell's video that went viral. And Mr. Campbell has appeared on a nationwide radio show, as well as on Fox News. Over 200 people in the community came out to tell the school board that censorship will not be accepted. And these folks shared their feelings and the concerns over Dr. Gibson's equity plan. At this meeting, Dr. Gibson's resignation was demanded based on her misconduct in the email communications that were RTK'd. Then another concern arose regarding Dr. Gibson's professional behavior that week. It became known when a parent who was aggressively pushing an RTK request from Penridge School District uncovered that Dr. Gibson was consulted at other districts for huge fees, 2 contracts that totaled $13,000. We have learned in subsequent RTK responses that Penridge reached out to our former superintendent and gave approval to lend Dr. Gibson to Penridge for professional development purposes. So we want to know.
That is time.
Why did the money go
That's your
directly
5
to
minutes.
Dr. Gibson and not Pennsbury?
Thank you. No?
So we just want to know. We have transparency.
That's your 5 minutes.
I'm sorry, Miss.
We just want transparency, okay? That's what we're hoping for.
Thank you. Joanne Mastriana.
I have one. Joanne Mastriana, Lower Makefield. I believe that masks should be optional for our children, and parents should make that decision. Segueing Dr. Smith, in July of 2021, through answered RTKs, we received a better understanding of what Dr. Gibson's interaction was with other districts. Emails uncovered more disturbing conduct that needs to be addressed. Within the emails received, Dr. Gibson lobbied Dr. Christopher Brown, Abington's Director of Equity, to attend the May board meeting to support her, given he is an LMT resident. In these emails, Dr. Gibson acknowledges that she is seeking advice on how to address the RTKs regarding her work with third parties. Yes, Dr. Gibson spoke with outside third parties about requests that were in legal review by Rudolph Clark. In that May board meeting, Peter Amuso slammed Doug Marshall and eventually threw him out of the meeting for using the words critical race theory. Amuso falsely suggests that the CRT was not part of the policy, and Marshall was disallowed from using the term. Dr. Gibson's emails confirm that CRT is in fact part of the plan, and they discuss how to reposition it as SEL. It is still, in fact, CRT retitled. One of the emails focuses on crafting, quote, crafting a response, end quote, for any questions regarding the diversity program in CRT. Furthermore, it appears that the PSBA has approved support in repositioning, and Dr. Brown shared his own personal work on how he repositioned it at Abington. One of the most shocking comments came from Dr. Cole James from Centennial, who shared that outside DEI groups want to know how she is going to push forward the equity policy if the verdict in the George Floyd case did not go as planned. Dr. Smith, there are 104 pages of documents received from Abington. All of the pages and emails refer to race. Our community is not racist, regardless of how this board, the solicitor, and one member of your staff want to portray us. We are concerned about what our children are being taught and the ways in which the delivery is carried out. We do not want the school district to usurp the authority of parents and family. We want the district to provide instruction in math, reading, writing, social studies, and science. Moral, social, religious, and political issues are the domain of the family, not the school. We strongly disapprove of the students being part of any and all social, cultural, and political movements. Dr. Gibson would have you believe that race is a problem in Pennsbury. However, her own family engagement survey indicates that this is false. A vast majority of the students do not find race to be a problem. Dr. Gibson's own data reflects that conclusion. Perhaps the problem is with the adults who are leading the charge. Dr. Smith. Dr. Smith, we ask that your first task be to review the equity audit and make the necessary changes to the policy to remove all elements of CRT and social justice from any future curriculum. We ask that these changes be delivered at the September board meeting to provide assurance to the community that the radical ideologies of this program never reach our children, and that a permanent hold be placed on any new curriculum changes until this policy is reviewed by all stakeholders. We have members in our group, Dr. Smith, who are willing to take part in this review and help you from beginning to end. We have members that have worked in the field of data analysis, law, and education who would gladly be a part of your team. Our children are our most precious resources, and it is imperative that their education be nothing short of stellar. Thank you.
I'm not sure how to say this. I don't know what this last name is, but the first name is Rashida, and I can't read what the writing says. Rashida?
It's Dr. Rashida Gari. So it's nice to finally meet you all in person. I'm sure you've enjoyed reading the emails that I've sent to you over the last year. So my name is Dr. Rashida Gari. I've been practicing medicine for over 20 years. I am a double board certified physician with firsthand experience in the management of COVID-19. I'm also a community member and a mother of 3 teenage boys. I'm here to help you understand the issues surrounding the masking of our children in our schools. First, a few points for you all to consider. You on the school board have decided that our children should go to school all day, every day, wearing masks like they're some sort of infectious disease spreaders, which they're not. You are supposedly basing this on ridiculous CDC recommendations, which are not at all backed by science. I spent a lot of my time trying to understand your reasoning and must say it's quite angering that you are even discussing the possibility of masking our children again for an entire year. As our elected officials, your reasoning is missing a few things, namely evidence, science, common sense, and basic human decency. So let me educate you all on some of the facts. First, masks and face coverings do not work. They just don't work. They don't work in preventing the spread of any viral illness. This was determined in part from at least 3 NIH-funded studies that clearly demonstrate that coronavirus and all other respiratory viruses are spread by aerosol particles, which are small enough to go through any mask. Next, COVID is never going away. Do all of you realize that? So pathogens with an animal reservoir cannot be eradicated. Are you planning on recommending masks for our children indefinitely? I'm sure the parents here have a big problem with that if you are. Next, masks absolutely cause harm to our children, including, but not limited to, increased bacterial and viral infections, hypoxia, which is a lack of oxygen, hypercapnia, which is increased CO2 retention, dizziness, headaches, syncope, which is passing out, shortness of breath, anxiety, and brain damage to our younger children, just to name a few. I could go on though. Next, even if you all think that masks work, you know that none of the children are wearing the mask properly. You all know that. Next, COVID poses almost no risk to our children at all. 0. The survivability rate for our children is 99.99%. This is as per CDC numbers. I'm sure you all know that. Next, in addition, you chose to close our schools last year unnecessarily because of, quote, positive test cases, which mean nothing. Do you know why it means nothing? Because these positive cases are based on faulty PCR testing, which even by the creator, Dr. Kerry Mullis, of the PCR technology, he stated that that should not be used to diagnose any infection. I don't know if you are aware of that, but that's what it is. So next, what about influenza? The CDC estimated that 480 children died of influenza between 2018 and 2019. That's more than died from COVID in the last year and a half. Did anyone on the board at that time recommend masking of our children? Why not? Influenza poses more risk than COVID to our children. Next. There has not been a single case of student-to-teacher transmission in the entire world. Let me repeat that. Not a single case of student-to-teacher transmission in the entire world. So when you all are talking about protecting our children and protecting the teachers, it's a lie. Do you know what it's called when you force children to wear a mask for fear of a virus that causes no harm to them? It's called child abuse. Do you have any idea what kind of physical and psychological damage you are doing to our children by forcing them to cover their faces, thinking that the air is toxic and that everyone around them is sick? You all are dehumanizing our children, and you know this. Your job is to protect our children first and to educate them. You are not elected to do anything else. You are not elected to make medical decisions for our children, including masks and including vaccines. You're not elected to do that. None of you are. None of you are doctors. You know nothing about it. In addition, there is no law or regulation that allows any of you to require our children to wear face masks in school. Your motivations are disgusting, forcing our children to wear masks to make yourselves feel better and to protect yourselves politically. I will not let the school district mask our children any longer. Forcing our children to wear masks is a symbolic security blanket that has nothing to do with the education of our children.
That is the 5 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bill Urban.
Save face by showing yours. Yeah. Take off those masks.
My name is Bill Irvin. I have lived in Levittown my whole 42 years of life and have been in Falls Township for the last 21 years. I have 4 kids who are in or have gone through the Pennsbury school system. I am here to speak regarding parents' choice and the option for masking. I am not going to speak about the so-called facts. In our current society, there is no such thing as truth anymore. 2 + 2 no longer equals 4. People will believe whatever they want to believe. I can quote you scientific reports stating masks don't work, and follow that by quoting just as many reports that masks do work. What is the truth? I can quote the same reports regarding vaccines, antibodies, the list goes on and on. Like I said, 2 + 2 no longer equals 4. The fact is, I, you, or anyone else is not going to change anyone's opinion on masking. This is like arguing about religion or politics. Anyone that has done so that realizes a waste of time, COVID and masking falls in the same category. What I will stand here and tell you is that as a parent, only I have the ability to make any decisions regarding my child's health, not you, not the school board, nobody. What is fear? The definition of fear, an unpleasant emotion caused by the belief that someone or something is dangerous, likely to cause pain, or a threat. Some people are afraid of spiders, some are afraid of heights, some are afraid of COVID. Just because someone's afraid of COVID does not mean they have the right to tell my child to wear a mask. Just as I do not have the right to tell them not to wear a mask because I am not afraid of COVID. I am not afraid of COVID, but what I do fear is losing my freedom and liberty. Remember, only I have the ability to make decisions for my children. Just 3 days in school last year, my son came home in tears. All around his mouth was red sores. This was from him wearing a mask all day long in school. Every mask he wears causes this problem. Wearing a mask, it's not normal. We were not meant to wear masks all day long. God gave us an immune system. My older daughter has anxiety and panic attacks way before she was diagnosed with a legitimate medical condition. This was way before COVID. That makes her feel claustrophobic and makes her very anxious. These are legitimate medical conditions. My children have medical conditions that do not allow them to wear a mask. Masks must be optional. Otherwise, you're discriminating against those who cannot wear them. My children deserve to show their face. My children, they want to see their teachers smile at them when they answer a question correctly. They want to see their friends' faces. Most importantly, my children want to live a normal life. If you want your child to wear a mask, great. It is your child and you have that right. But your fear does not give you the right to tell my child to wear a mask. To the board, if you choose to take the masking decision away from me, my decision very well may be to take my children out of this district. We will go to a cyber school. And for those of you here that don't know, that have the same concerns as me, the cyber schools are of no additional cost to you. The funding comes from our tax dollars, meaning our money given to the school district then will be given to the cyber school of our choice. and no Pennsbury Cyber School, okay? You attack our kids, we attack your budget. Keep fighting the good fight. The power is in numbers. I don't see a lot of masks in here. Take it for what it is. Freedom over fear. I know the district has employees like Regina Roush over there, okay, who thinks parents' opinions don't matter. She specifically told me so in a meeting. Whether you want to say it or not, you told me my opinion doesn't matter. Well, I sure hope the school board cares about our input, because you know what? We have the power to take you out. God bless.
Rick Garnier?
No clock? Rick Garnier, Lower Makefield. I'm here to speak about the cost of the COVID hysteria, a cost measured in both money and the health of our children. Just as your inclusion, equity, and diversity is damaging to the health of our children also. Teaching our children falsehoods like the United States of America began in 1619, falsely teaching our children that our nation is inherently evil. Teaching falsehoods like kids of one race are responsible for negative conditions of kids from another race. This is not healthy for the well-being and unity of our community. The divisive nature of your CRT is itself racist. We have many academics who might be able to pass a history test. They can recite the date of John Brown's attempted insurrection, but they fail to wrap their 21st century mind around the social and economic conditions of centuries ago. The history of slavery surely dates back long before the creation of city-states, but it was under the city-states they codified slavery under law and created institutional slavery. For 5,000 years, mankind had institutional slavery. It was normal for everyone, and not one society was exempt. Slavery was common across the globe. Slaves were as common as a cobbler, a blacksmith, a baker. This is what the people of centuries ago experienced from the day they were born. We of the 21st century can't possibly fathom how normal this was back then, any more than we can fathom how normal it was to chop off the hand of a thief. Slavery was an integral part of everybody's life, from Africa to the Orient, the Greeks to the Celts. Even the Native Americans enslaved each other. No race was spared. Whites enslaved whites, blacks enslaved blacks, Asians enslaved Asians, vice versa, and on and on. But the first culture in the history of mankind to successfully put an end to this horrific institution was our culture, Western culture. This heritage of ours, I'm immensely proud of. Thank God for the enlightened Americans, the abolitionists who put an end to institutionalized slavery. This could not have been done without American values of democracy, free speech, due process, and a host of other honorable characteristics. Personally, as Pennsylvania Dutch, I am proud of my direct heritage, for we were abolitionists before it was cool. I'm proud of our nation's legacy regarding slavery. The United States of America has been the best creation mankind has ever been blessed with. Try teaching that.
Evelyn Sirignata?
Good evening, school committee members. In regards to the new proposed health and safety plan, I ask that you consider the following concerns and questions. What data has the Pennsylvania Department of Health, or CDC, supplied that warrants forcibly masking our children? Not even one child ages 0 to 9, literally none, have died of any variant of COVID in the entire state of Pennsylvania during this pandemic. For ages 10 to 19, 0.01% of the confirmed cases within Pennsylvania has resulted in death. Furthermore, in Bucks County, only 2 children have required hospitalization, neither of which required care in the ICU, which only indicates that for the vast majority of the already extremely small percentage of children who are even becoming infected with COVID-19, the symptoms are mild, without the need of serious medical intervention. All of this data can readily be found on the Pennsylvania DOH's website. We can all agree that children are at an extremely low risk of COVID complications, and medical literature consistently indicates that they are not the primary method of viral transmission. They are barely getting or spreading COVID. The burden of the COVID virus with all of its variants cannot continue to fall on the shoulders of our children. They are the least affected by COVID, yet the most affected by mask mandates because their developmental windows are brief. I urge you to prioritize them by making masks optional this year, which would allow families to make choices based on their own health bio-individuality. You would think that the Department of Health would have a robust collection of medical literature that demonstrates that it's safe for children to wear a mask for prolonged periods, such as a full day of school. However, I have been unable to find such data. Before making a blanket mandate such as this, both the Pennsylvania DOH and the Health and Safety Committee should be providing parents with evidence that masks are not causing harm to our children, that they are safe and effective. This data simply does not exist. In contrast, a very large, nearly 26,000 children, nationwide database of masking children in Germany for 270 minutes per day, about a school day, indicates the opposite. The following is a quote taken from the study, and it states that 68% reported that children complained about impairments caused by wearing their mask. Those impairments included irritability, headache, difficulty concentrating, less happiness, reluctance to go to school, malaise, impaired learning, and drowsiness or fatigue. Why are we doing this to our children, who, per data supplied by the CDC, indicates that children are not the driving force of the spread of COVID-19? A growing body of evidence implicates mask use as injurious to the human body. A recently published meta-analysis of 65 studies determined that prolonged mask use lowers blood oxygen levels, which impairs immune function, neurological and cognitive function, and stresses the body in numerous ways. Masking lowers concentration, increases heart rate, respiratory rate, body temperature, causes headaches and fatigue, and a host of other adverse effects. If nothing else, this meta-analysis indicates a dire need for more safety data. Masking children negatively affects them physically, emotionally, socially, educationally, and linguistically. When children cannot hear their teacher well or see their mouth, their ability to pronounce words correctly is inhibited. Masks also prevent children from reading facial cues and expressions, thus stunting their development of these social skills. As a parent of a child who already has speech delays due to a birth defect, this is of great concern to me. My last question is this: what are the metrics for allowing our children access to school without a mask? Our daily COVID cases are not even half of what they were during the height of this pandemic within Bucks County. It comes as no surprise that a variant now exists and that numbers will continue to rise as we enter into the school year. This is inherently how a virus functions. Will we continue masking our children indefinitely? At what point will these measures come to an end? Will families be forced to accept experimental products with known risks of myocardia, blood clotting, and Guillain-Barré for our children in order to gain access to school with unobstructed airways? Furthermore, if these measures are being taken in response to the growing number of Delta cases, this too is faulty logic, as we know that 1, virus variants are known to be less deadly, while 2, becoming more virulent. In other words, it is mutating to be a common virus with even less serious health risk to children than that of the original COVID-19. Vulnerable adults can no longer demand that children be forced to mask. They can wear a mask or accept a readily available vaccine or choose to stay out of certain situations, but they can no longer ask children to obstruct their airways for long hours to protect adults who have options. I ask that you, our district leaders, make choices that prioritize children, as that is ultimately the purpose of this committee. Where there is risk, there must be choice.
Thank you. Thank you.
Truman, Sternberg.
Hello, my name is Truman Sternberg and I'm 8 years old. Today I will be talking about the mask mandate. When I have to wear a mask, it is tight, it is hot, it hurts my ears, and I have trouble focusing. I just do not like it. I do not agree with any of this. I do not like smelling my own breath. I do not like it at all. I think that each human being on this earth should decide for themselves. Thank you.
Sternberg.
That's who you're doing it for, not for yourself. For them.
Good evening. Good evening, school board members and parents. I am David Sternberg, and my wife and I just moved to Yardley this past summer and absolutely love this community. We have never experienced such friendliness and welcome from a local community as we have from Yardley from all our time on active duty traveling around. We are parents of 4 children, 2 of which are excited to start school as first and second graders this fall. Having experienced such welcome, I feel emboldened to bring my concerns before you tonight against the mask mandate being contemplated for this upcoming school year. My job as a pilot in the military is largely data-driven. Flying is largely science, with only a little bit of art. That being said, I would like to read a few quotes from my research through the CDC. Quote, interventions should focus on reducing transmission in and among staff, end quote. Quote, accordingly, we find that interventions aimed at children might have a relatively small impact on reducing SARS-CoV-2 transmission, end quote. And finally, I'd like to read to you one more. Quote, household transmission studies show that children were rarely the index case, and case studies suggested that children with COVID-19 seldom caused outbreaks. Children are unlikely to be the main drivers of the pandemic. Opening up schools and kindergartens is unlikely to impact COVID-19 mortality rates among older people, end quote. There are more of these studies. But there are 2 things all of those excerpts, all of those independent studies have in common. I found those studies right from the CDC website as references in their guidance for schools this year, which is ironically what you had put on the TV screen earlier. And they all indicate that our children are not only not at high risk, but also aren't contributing to the spread of COVID in general. I ask you to please sincerely consider that. The CDC is recommending masks and social distancing for our children, and in the same document presenting evidence that says our children are not at grave risk and aren't major contributors to the spread of COVID. Before every flight, we come together as a crew and complete a risk assessment for as many factors as we can to determine what risks we will run on that specific mission on that specific day. From that assessment, we determine ways to mitigate that risk. We do this over and over, to the point that in some situations, such as when deployed, certain risks become common enough over time that better and better mitigation measures rise to the top. Enough time has gone by for us to much more properly assess the risk to our children, both of the much lower risk of COVID and the much greater detriment of masks on our children's health, to knock this assessment out of the park. Parents have the right to choose what is best for our own children, and if some choose to continue masks, that is at their discretion. But there should be no requirement, no mandate to do so for all children. The evidence does not support this plan's risk assessment. I urge you to reject this plan and let the decision rest with parents. All of our children have been through enough. I spent 12 years in the Air Force, deploying several times to preserve and protect our freedoms, not to have my children's right to breathe unobstructed stripped from them in a heartbeat. I did not spend 12 years of my life fighting for this country's freedoms to have those freedoms stomped on by lacking evidence and ill-counseled fear. Thank you for your time.
Andy Stepp.
Andy Stepp, Fallsington, Taylor Drive. During this whole process, Ms. Polsky, Ms. Toydragon, Dr. Smith, Mr. Cannon, and Mr. Taylor, what do you all have in common? You touched your face multiple times during this process. If you truly believe masks work and you truly believe that you want to protect kids, then put them in respirators, okay? Just so you know, I gave my place in line to that son to speak in front of me. And if that didn't bring a tear to your eye, all you're staring at me like I'm dead. And this is very concerning. This entire process, no emotion at all. I'm not going to talk on what I was going to talk before, so I'll let the next person talk. Thank you.
Aaron Lyons.
Aaron Lyons, Falls Township. Good evening. I'm the chapter chair of the Bucks County chapter of Moms for Liberty. It's nice to meet all of you. I'm sure you know what I'm here to discuss with you, as it's similar to what most parents are here to express their concerns about. I'll start by saying that we already know your decision has been made, as you made that distinctively clear in the letter you sent out to parents of students last week. I won't bore you with the science, since clearly science is not what your decisions are based upon anyway. What I'm going to do is explain my concerns as a parent of a child who is also being pushed into a corner of continued suffering at the expense of his childhood. My son isn't in this school district yet, but he will be next year. I don't only advocate for my children, but for all children and all parents. We have fallen upon more confusion in today's world than I imagine most have seen in their lifetimes. You're trying to pass a requirement to force children to wear masks in school all day long, yet again. I challenge all of you to go ahead and actually wear a mask all day while behaving like a kindergartner. Leave your cell phone at home because you don't have one. You're only 5 years old. Sit with your colleagues, but not too close to them. Keep your mouth shut and listen to someone talk all day long. If you're called on to speak, make sure you yell, because your small voice is unlikely to be heard through a mask. Come to think of it, you may not even want to bother participating anymore because you know it's going to be stressful for you. Your fight or flight reaction will kick in and you'll choose flight instinctively because you're a small child being put in a stressful situation day in and day out. Your brain and body are going to retreat to what's most comfortable since you're not given the option of having actual comfort. When it's time for recess, make sure you run around and you're fully invested in your playtime. It's the only time you actually get to interact with your friends after all. When you're finished your allotted playtime, go ahead and sit back down in the classroom quietly. I encourage you to give this a try for 3, 4, or 5 days in a row and let me know how you feel at the end of the week. I can guarantee you it's not empowered, energetic, or happy. By enforcing these mask mandates, you're not only imposing on their health and well-being, but you are breeding psychological and developmental issues that will take a very long time to reverse. How about a child with anxiety, a child with glasses who can't see when their mask is on, a child who needs to be able to see people's mouths to learn proper enunciations? Speech developments that normally could resolve themselves are being delayed. Children learning social skills are being handicapped and given an unfair opportunity. We're told on a regular basis that things like gender and sexuality are not one size fits all to your standards. However, you're going to tell us that medical choices don't exist and solutions are one size fits all? That's a pill that most of us are going to have a very difficult time swallowing, and I think you all should go home tonight and really think about what you're doing. I hope it keeps you up at night and that it haunts you. I hope you heed warning and make a change before you lose funding and watch the public school system collapse, because we as parents will not stand for this any longer. We will pull our children from your district and explore safer options. Consider what you're doing to make a buck. I've always heard the saying that the love for money is the root of all evil, but boy, this is showing to be truer than ever right now. This is not about science or health. COVID is not a current threat to the pediatric units in hospitals. You are basing this decision on hypothetical situations and choosing to abuse children over opinions and not facts. I urge you to reconsider. Thank you.
Adam Bisher.
We had a malfunction, and we probably should address that.
Good evening. My name is Adam Beischer. I have 3 young children in the district. I won't repeat a lot of what Dr. Rashida and the young man said. They did a great job, but I have a small request regarding the mandatory mask policy. This community, this district is filled with brilliant, successful educators, business people, professionals. And in our daily lives, we make hard decisions, right? And the most important decisions are hard, and we weigh, most of the decisions have pros and cons, positives and negatives. We are talking all about the what we can do to stop COVID, right? It's all about that. We're not talking about the negatives. I'm willing to sit here professionally, and there might be an incremental positive to the kids wearing the masks. But there's also a negative. 2 of my kids have speech impediments. They see a speech therapist. The speech therapist told us stuttering, speech problems are on the rise. That's a problem. Our young kids are going on the 3rd school year where they have a mask. That's going to cause long-term developmental problems for them. My kids are having a hard time communicating. So I think if we want to be good examples to our children, and I would be willing to participate, we should at least show them what it's like to have a pro and con discussion, discuss the positives and the negatives of what we're doing, and come to an agreement so, as to benefit their health and wellness. That's all I have. Thank you.
Janelle Sullivan?
Mrs. Toy-Trigoni, it's 9:03, but due to the malfunction, this will be our last speaker. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Janelle Sullivan. I am a resident in Lower Mayfield Township. I enrolled my son in 2019 at Afton Elementary School, and I called it the Promised Land, full-day kindergarten. Now, last year, I withdrew my son to homeschool him. In fact, let me correct that. I'm unschooling my son. Example number 1. I hear you guys say that you're going to be teaching these kids about safe and effective promoting vaccines. Read my shirt. My son was vaccine injured. You want to talk about a pandemic? How many people know somebody affected by autism? Okay, that is called encephalopathy. Brain damage from brain inflammation. That's what my son's medical exemption is for. Now, you may not want to hear from the parents, but guess who found a way to heal their child? I took out a second mortgage on my house, and I detoxed his vaccines homeopathically. Now, at home, my son is brilliant, okay? He is reading science and history books. He didn't read when he left Afton Elementary School in kindergarten. He wasn't reading then, he's now. He's doing division. He knows all the elements in the periodical table, and I was told that he would be in special ed forever. In 2017, he was diagnosed in the 98+ percentile of the autism spectrum. That is a real epidemic. And one of the things that we did to help heal him was we did oxygen treatments and oxygen oasis. After that, he no longer had a one-on-one at the intermediate unit. The school district no longer had to pay for one person to make sure that my kid didn't injure himself and his classmates. Now, the pediatricians in this county have been extremely complicit in abusing my child. And you guys are all being complicit in abusing children by putting masks on them. I will not send my child to a school that teaches them to be afraid of each other, to be afraid of breathing oxygen, to be afraid of hugging each other. I am not going to send my child to a school that teaches you can choose your gender. Okay? Levine wants to give our kids hormone blockers that causes sterilization starting at the age of 7 years old. You want to go along with the health department in this country? I'm out. You want to get kids back in this district? You start working for their benefit.
We've reached an hour. Yes? Okay, so that concludes the first public comment at 1 hour.
Let's get right to the second right away. Extend public comment. You have the authority. Let's just get it all out of the way. Just take your beat all at once. Take your beat all at once. It's much easier that way. It is. It'll hurt less than that. Show yours. Right? We can all just save our time. Take it all this month. Forget about next month. Just get it out of the way. Or you got to do a scientific
I'd like to make a motion that we do the second, we move the second public comment now. We'll just get over it.
That is the smartest thing
What do you?
ever said in months. Extended public comment. You got a second? Come on, Toys. This is my first time here, but it ain't my last. Just the beginning, and I can get a lot louder. Yeah. It's not that hard of a decision. It's a yes or no. 20 minutes. Yeah. Can't hear you. You can spare, my God, no wonder you guys waste so much children. You can spare 20 minutes for children. Your precious lives. Yes. Stop signing like documents. Are you following the right to know? Take it to a vote. Let's go. Oh, no, Matt. Oh, no, Matt. Oh, no, Matt. Oh, no, Matt. You're in. Oh, no, Matt. Oh, no, Matt.
Okay. Apologize. I would like to make a motion that we do second comment, public comment now, and then we'll move on to our agenda.
Second?
I second that motion.
Someone second it?
Second.
Okay, any board comment? No. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
Made the right decision for you. Next. How's that feel?
Approved. No, I know.
You guys can take a 5-minute mask break if you like. After you're falling asleep because of lack of oxygen. Zero like me. My name's Joe Homeowner. I live on Onion Business Street. It's somewhere in the district. I'll give you my address. You don't want to come.
Okay, we're going to begin second public comment. The second public comment is 30 minutes, and we will begin. Chip, you want to tell us what time we're starting?
It's starting at 9:10.
Okay. Colleen Beitz? Beitz? B-E-I-T-Z is the last name, Colleen?
You gotta know how to play the game. Oh, my man.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Ben Primich. I am going in my sophomore year at PHS, and I want to...
Excuse me, I'm wondering, are you related to Colleen Beitz or
No.
something? Okay, so you're speaking in place of her?
No, yeah, I'm on the list. You can cross me off if you want to.
Okay, so wait, I'm just trying to figure out where Colleen is.
They're switching places.
Is she,
They're switching places.
We're switching.
okay, and I'm sorry, what is your name again?
My name is Ben Primich. It's P-R-I-M-I-C-H.
Okay, gotcha.
All right, so I would just like to make, from the student's point of view, on why we should keep masking optional and not mandatory. Because, so, you know, just have a couple points here. When you go into high school, it's supposed to be a time when you're meeting new people and having fun. And when we go in, I'm just going to talk about my experience with masking. You know, you go in the first day, right? And everyone has their mask. And it's so tense, and no one's talking. No one's getting to know each other. It was like that for the first month. It was so bad. And, you know, everyone says, keep your mask up, keep doing that. That's what I did. And you know what happened to me? I got COVID. And you know what happened? It was the mildest cold that I ever had. Yeah. So then, you know, after that, I'm sorry, it got very uncomfortable, so uncomfortable. You know, it was so hard to concentrate. I'm not even gonna lie, I'm old, I still, you know, it's hard, you know, you got the hot air in your face, it's, you know, it's a stressful time. And so basically what ended up happening was it would come down under my nose. And I think I'm a pretty good kid, I'm respectful, you know, I don't start stuff. And I got sent down to the office twice for having it come down under my nose.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, something on my record that should never be there. And also, I mean, yeah. So, and then another point I'd like to make, this is the last thing here. With this critical race theory, Dr. Gibson, I'm on the football team at Pennsbury. I don't care what color you are, nobody does. There is no mention of race. We are all one unit on the team, and that's how it is in school. We just move together. That's how we do it. I don't think, by you implementing the process, it's going to be dividing us more. We are one unit. We do not even mention race. And that's why I suggest to the board that you please consider, and we are not going to keep wearing masks the rest of our life. We're not going to implement this theory, this critical race theory. That's all I have for you. Thank you.
Arthur W.
If somebody doesn't like you, it's because you're a jerk. Are you going to allow not the color of your skin. From the first public comment to speak? No.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you said. I'm reading from the first.
Is this the first public comment? Are you going to allow the last 4 people to speak from the first?
Yes, that's what I'm pulling from that list, yes. So I called for Arthur W. No? Kim Rowe? It looks like R-O to me, but I'm not sure. Kim R-O. Oh, maybe it is P-I-O. Sorry.
New glasses. Maybe a new mask. Couple masks.
My name is Kimberly Pio, Lower Makefield Township. I have 3 children in the school district, which sadly might not be the case if the vote is yes for mask mandates. I'm also a former respiratory therapist with 12 years critical care experience, but I won't waste my breath with facts and truths because it's clear that you on the board aren't interested in those things. If it's about science, then please acknowledge the science. Masks do not prevent the spread of COVID, but they do deteriorate overall psychological and physiological health. If it's about liability, then please acknowledge that the ill health effects associated with mask wearing pose a much greater risk to our students and district. And if it's about our children and the greater good, then acknowledge that human connectivity is fed through facial expressions and exposure to face is paramount, and exposure to faces is paramount to healthy neurological, rational, and psychological development. As parents, we spend years teaching our children to listen to the messages that their bodies send them when they are uncomfortable, unsafe, and when something doesn't feel right. Our children have been complaining of shortness of breath, racing hearts, headaches, feelings of chest tightness. You can do it. You can do it.
You see what you do to the community? It's all you. You do this. This is the direct result of your action. And your
But now we are telling them, don't listen to your body, follow the rules. We know what is best for you. Our kids are now abandoning, sorry, I really want to do this. You can do it, you got it. All right, our kids are now abandoning their inner wisdom daily to appease authority. If they don't comply, they know they will miss out on friends, education, and sports. Stop making our kids afraid of others, even themselves, believing that they might make someone sick. The implications of what is happening in this district with these masks are more dangerous to our children than the risk of getting a virus. I will no longer act as if this is normal or acceptable, or I should just settle for my I will no longer act as if this is normal or acceptable, or I should just settle for my gratitude that our kids are back in person learning. Even if this is common for schools in Bucks County to hide behind the delirious recommendations, it is not necessary, safe, or normal. As a parent, I am responsible for the health and well-being of my children, as we all are, as all of the other parents in this school district, not you. Speaking up is hard, being brave is hard, calling public attention to inconsistencies and dangerous mandates is hard, but watching our children suffer from emotional and physical consequences of wearing masks on their face inside school, out on a playground, where they should be playing freely and connecting with other children is harder.
Thank you. Dana Campbell.
Hello, I'm Dana Campbell, Lower Makefield Township. I have 3 kids also in the Pennsbury School District. This actually was written by one of my children. He's a 6th grader going into 6th grade at William Penn Middle School. He wrote this. I'm 12 years old and I'm going to 6th grade in a few days. I believe that everyone should wear masks during school. Since we are 12, my brother and I got our COVID vaccine, and a week from now we won't be required to wear masks in public places. Some people may think that since I'm vaccinated, I shouldn't have to wear a mask, but it's not entirely about me. I had an extra year of preschool when I was little, so I'm older than most kids in my grade. Most of my friends aren't able to get vaccinated yet, so their only protection from the virus is masks. For me, wearing a mask is a show of solidarity. I've heard about some schools that lifted mask mandates and suffered. If that were to happen to Pennsbury, we'd be back to virtual schooling. Many students suffered from virtual learning. Kids like me don't get to see their friends in person. In my opinion, seeing my friends in person is much better than through a computer screen, mask or no mask. Staring at screens all day isn't good for our eyes either. I would get headaches constantly. Kids with special needs also suffer from virtual learning because they can't get the care through the computer that they need. The kids whose parents work during the day would be home alone. Wearing a mask doesn't only protect you, but it protects the people around you too. My mom is going to nursing school this year, as I am going into 6th grade. If she were to contract COVID from a sick patient and infect me and my siblings, and then we went to school and infected our friends, and they would infect other nurses, that would just be as bad. I've had several reasons why we shouldn't have to wear masks. I have heard several reasons, and many of them have a simple solution. For example, if your kid comes home with a wet mask, the simple solution is to bring a spare one. Coronavirus is a horrible problem the whole world is facing, but just like many problems, it has a simple solution. Wear masks. Would you rather have your child wear a mask or end up sick in the hospital? Masks don't take away freedoms, they give freedom. Just make sure you brush your teeth before wearing your mask, or you'll be stuck with morning breath.
Thank you. Thank you. Ashley Ritter.
Hello, I'm Ashley Ritter from Lower Makefield.
I am also a Pennsbury graduate. I'm a nurse practitioner and I have a PhD in nursing and health policy. I'm also the CEO of Dear Pandemic, a social media campaign that is spreading information to more than 500,000 people a month, answering everyday questions about COVID-19 in a style that's approachable and based in science. My children have never had a year of school without COVID. I don't like it, but that's what we have to deal with. I want school open, and I want school safe. I follow the science closely. Delta spreads much easier than previous variants. Mitigation measures work when they're layered. Cases will occur, and they will grow quickly. Lots of cases will cause disruptions to in-person education, and parents and families, specifically women, shoulder the disruption of school closures. We need a layered approach to mitigation strategies, and we need a flexible, proactive planning in response to an evolving situation. And these are my requests. I would like a transparent backup plan. I would like it to be offered to have a virtual flex plan versus a full year of virtual education for my children. I would like to know, what is the education plan for brief school shutdowns that will be required intermittently? I would like to know how real-time screening tests of all students will take place. I would like to know what the thresholds will be to modify the current plan, health and safety plan. Will it be the size of the outbreak? Will it be community hospital capacity? Will it be the number of consecutive outbreaks? I ask that you be proactive versus reactive. I would also like to know what additional support you will provide to school nurses, teachers, and parents to support the education and health concerns of all students. I would like to know about how we are going to increase access to and information about pediatric PCR tests in our community. We are going to need perseverance in a very tough year ahead, and my goals are to minimize disruption, minimize outbreaks, and maximize the amount of time my children are in school. Thank you.
Thank you. Robert Abrams.
Robert Abrams, Lower Makefield Township. Quickly, I had a meeting with Dr. Smith this afternoon. I was very impressed. I'm going to ask the community to give him a chance. If this solicitor or this board tries to overrun him or he does not produce, it is up to the constituency here to overrun the solicitor and the school board. But Dr. Smith said a lot of very positive things about including the community and what the community wants and needs. And if he's going to cook his own goose, that's on him. If he's going to deliver, let him do it. I did have a COPD attack on my way up there, and I brought this with me because I asked how many of these were in the school district. It's a pulse oximeter. It measures, everybody know? Blood oxygen level and pulse. Now, I believe Mrs. Polsky's is a registered nurse and her husband is a pediatrician or a retired pediatrician. There are none of these other than the nurse's office in school. When that kid is passing out from wearing a mask for 8 hours, the teacher doesn't have a clue as to why. This kid is oxygen starved because, as Mr. Taylor just showed us, they take a sip of liquid, their lips are still wet, now their mask is wet, and the toxins and carbon dioxide their body's supposed to be getting rid of is inhibited from leaving the body. On the same token, the other side, that fresh oxygen they're supposed to be breathing in can't get into the body. I believe that anyone that votes for this mask mandatory should really personally take out a whole lot of personal liability insurance. Next case, DEI, CRT, SEL, whatever acronym you want to use for it. This community, the data, when I was shut down by the solicitor, was on page 16 of the equity report. And it said 92% of the community here does not see the need for any racial issues. I was shut down when I said you're taking care of 8%. I don't even believe it's 8%. What I believe, and I've discussed this with other people, is there was a conclusion. The narrative was made up and the data was mined to match the conclusion. The conclusion was not made from the data. That's fraud. Plain and simple. That's what we're listening to. Let's get on to one more. I want all these people to speak tonight. We had an issue here where I was going to be charged $12 first and $41.75. Tonight, we're going to vote on giving the person for right-to-know information who was willing to pay the attorneys thousands of dollars to go to open records against me for $12 and for $41. That is how our money is being managed, and we are rewarding this person with a $15,000 pay increase. It is $10,000 plus 36% in benefits and PESers, 36% in PESers, and then benefits on top of that. That is an insult to every single taxpayer in this school district. We are all replaceable. God made us that way. We all retire, we all pass on, and someone must take our place. It should be done here tonight. We need a new business administrator, and we need to ask Dr. Gibson to update her resume so that she can go somewhere where they need her, because we don't need her here. In addition, the conflict of interest form was never filled out. She's an owner of a company doing the same thing, and now we're understanding she's under contract with Bucks County Intermediate Unit as a paid consultant. I have never heard of a bigger conflict of interest in my life. Thank you, and have a good night.
Tim Daly.
Tim Daly, Lower Makefield. First, I want to address your opening comment. I'm simply going to say, boo-hoo-hoo. Doesn't feel great, does it, Christine? The lies that you put about me, the racist comments that you made against me, Ms. Walker's, where you mischaracterized the things I said, and you, Mr. Waldorf, who apologized to that woman, and you accused me of microaggressions, and you accused me of dog whistles when I wanted to discuss data. There are no dog whistles when there's data, Mr. Game of Thrones. Shame on all of you. But good that you got the same treatment you delivered to me and what this solicitor did in doxing every single person that came in June, where our names, our addresses, our phone numbers were put on social media by your union thug friends. Enjoy it, Christine. You got what we got, and hopefully you get more, and hopefully you, Waldorf, and you, Walk Press, get your just desserts for the mistreatment that you have had to the community and to these kids. And I ain't got any candy or donuts for you tonight, Josh, so sorry about that. RTK, RTK, RTK. Christine, you in February threatened me with producing the costs given to this man right here. Where is it, Christine? Don't you want to show the community how I misused your funds? Or are you too scared to talk about what you guys have been trying to deny? Produce the costs. We dare you. So let's talk about the RTKs that are currently at appeal. So everyone's know there's going to be an in-camera review in the next 2 weeks regarding an RTK that this solicitor is illegally denied, stating that every communication was privileged regarding an attack politically, utilizing taxpayer dollars of the school district against Victoria Chahofsky and Jennifer Spillane in regards to an illegal unenforceable board policy 707. We want to name which school board member had the audacity to think you had a right to use my tax dollars to attack two ladies running against you guys in seats. Because when we get the names, be assured you're going to pay the money back tenfold. If not, we're going to be seeing criminal charges for the misuse and theft of our money. So let's talk about CRT, Miss Gibson. I read 3,000 pages of documents over the last 2 days, and I want to thank you. You absolutely invigorated me for the things that you're doing in this district. When you shut me down when I wanted to talk data, because you guys know I am a data scientist, and I'm one of the best in the country at what I do. You shut me down intentionally because you knew when I get my hands on her data, it was going to blow up your little scheme to create a defense strategy in your EOC lawsuits. I have the data. Robert already addressed it, so I won't do it again. But we also need to talk about the dissertation this lady did, which was confirmed in writing this past week, that it was Pennsbury data. And in that dissertation, it concludes that Pennsbury is a racist school district with racist administrators and racist teachers carrying out the orders of the oppressors. That's pretty much how it sums up. And it's about as intellectually dishonest as I could ever dream. And then we get the lies from our solicitor again, telling our administrators to say, oh, we had to destroy the data because Gwynedd Mercy told us. Wrong. IRB, federal law, Mikey. 3 years, you must contain it. Get into the legal books, bud. Your ambulance chasing career really doesn't correlate to this law. So you heard from all the other speeches, all the documents we have here, thousands of them, all the examples and the evidence that critical race theory is regularly discussed in a DEI support group that was created by, as I learned in my BCIU emails, Miss Gibson. She created it. But the one that was the most concerning to me is, I got all the Abington stuff, and I see Dr. Brown's here. I can't wait till you speak, Dr. Brown, because hopefully this time you'll tell everybody you're from Abington and you're Miss Gibson's personal friend. But in this email, a woman named Barbara Simmons, who is a professor, states, I was like 10 more seconds.
That is your 5 minutes.
We need to stop the rise of white supremacy.
Mr. Daly?
Why is Dr. Gibson being invited to this meeting?
Thank you.
You guys need to deal with it. CRT is here, and we need you to address it.
Simon Campbell.
Let me just thank all of you for coming tonight. One of the best things about living in the United States is the expression, we the people. And here you all are. Thank you and God bless you. Let me address you now, government. I'm here tonight, Simon Campbell, Pennsbury School District resident, former member of the Board of Directors. I'm here tonight to talk about your critical race theory political indoctrination program being perpetuated by you far-left extremists in conjunction with the self-serving, profiteering Dr. Gibson. This book, I want everyone to get a copy of this book. Get it on Amazon. It's called Something Happened in Our Town, a child's story about racial injustice. It is geared towards 5 to 8-year-old children on Amazon. I have a parent who has shown me the email from the teacher that this book was put into a Pennsbury School District classroom. I'm going to read certain passages from this book, so we can all understand what your critical race theory agenda is about. It's a child's storybook, and I quote, "Something bad happened in our town. The news was on the TV, the radio, and the internet. The grown-ups didn't think the kids knew about it." Remember, this is for 5 to 8-year-olds. But the kids in Miss Garcia's class heard some older kids talking about it and they had questions. After school, Emma asked her mother, "Why did the police shoot that man?" "It was a mistake," said her mother. "I feel sad for the man and his family." "Yes, the police thought he had a gun," said her father. "It wasn't a mistake," said her sister Liz. "The cops shot him because he was black." The book continues with dark images, sinister images for 5 to 8-year-olds to look at. "I know what a slave is," said Emma. "That's when you have to do whatever the other person says." Yes, slaves had to do whatever white people told them to do. Even after slavery ended, white people didn't let black people live where they wanted, go to school with white people, or vote. Who are white people? White people came here from places in Europe or Russia or other countries. We are white, even though our skin is light tan. "Did our family do those bad things a long time ago?" asked Emma. "Yes," answered her mother. "Back then, many white people thought they were better than black people, even though it wasn't true." I don't need to continue reading any more from this vile, revolting book that you people have put into the classrooms in this school district. Innocent kids, 5 to 8-year-olds, you know what they do? They play in the sandbox together. They don't see each other's skin color. They wonder why the clouds are fluffy, why the worms are growing out the soil. And they come to this school district and the government is putting this political propaganda into their innocent minds. This isn't critical race theory. It isn't equity. It is disgusting government-promoted filth of innocent young minds. That's what it is. And let's get one thing clear. All of you, and you've tried to silence speakers at public comment, broke the law. Do you understand me? You broke the law. Each and every one of you will be held accountable for your violations of law against the First Amendment rights of the citizens. It is time for Gibson to resign or be fired. And let's just say this. There's 6, as for masking innocent kids, masking them, shutting down their schools, we pay for these schools. How dare you shut them down? Causing physical and emotional harm to children. There are elections coming up, there are 6 seats coming. You're all done. Good night.
Time is now 9:40, and that concludes second public comment.
One more?
That concludes second public comment.
That's the end of second public comment. Thank you.
I second. Oh, there we go, we got a motion and a second. We want to hear what he has to say. Excuse me, what about the people? All in favor? Aye. We the people want to know.
Everything, we're not doing health policy.
Excuse me, I know I was on the list, so is it being truncated because of lack of time, or is it being truncated?
Yes, the
Because of time.
Okay, can I do have something to say that's unrelated to this? So is there going to be an option for a second?
I can't hear you.
Okay, excuse me. So is there going to be an option for another public comment that truly is second public comment? Because I understand that the option exists to extend first public comment and that you wanted to get through everything, and that's wonderful. But I signed up for second comment purposefully to make sure there was time for something that's not on the agenda. So I'd like an opportunity to make that comment whenever appropriate.
Yeah, see, unfortunately, that was the only thing that we changed. We just changed the comment from being, the second comment from being later to being right now.
Your policy is Pennsylvania state law that you made us do non-agenda items. Your lawyer advised you to do it.
This has nothing to do with agenda or non-agenda items. This has to do with the fact that we did an hour and a half of public comment, and that's all we have time for, unfortunately.
Mrs. Toy-Dragoni, if I could, Mrs. Toy-Dragoni, if I could, I just wanted to let you know that there's comments that I was waiting to see if it came up in agenda items and informal, and that's why I put it in second. If it didn't come up, I was going to ask the question. So if there's an opportunity to have a true second public comment for its original intention, which is to follow all the agenda items and then have an opportunity for people to add to the comment, if it wasn't mentioned, it would be great to have that opportunity later on. Thank you.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Josh.
I'd like to make a motion to combine minutes 4A, Finance A, and B, Old Business, Old Business A. I'm sorry.
Yeah, just say, make a motion to,
I'd like to make a motion to combine and approve the entire agenda.
second.
Any board comment? Roll call, please.
Mr. Goldberg.
Aye.
Mr. Kanan.
Aye.
Mr. Pallotta.
Aye.
Mrs. Paulsky.
They rolled it all up. We're going to vote to mask again. Bullshit. Bring it out. We want you on.
Mrs. Paulsky. Mrs. Paulsky.
Aye.
Mr. Sanderson.
Aye.
Mr. Taylor.
Aye.
Mrs. Watchpress.
Aye.
Mr. Waldorf.
Aye.
Mrs. Troy Dragoni.
Aye.
9-0.
You all need to burn in hell. Bring it out.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Meeting adjourned.